as Christians, as theists, we believe in the supernatural. And that's what we're moving into. We've stuck with pretty much natural sciences and debunked them pretty much. At least we've given a fair defense for what we believe in the natural realm. But since the possibility of the supernatural exists, then we can look at the supernatural for evidence of the first cause. Why not? You look at aliens as possible evidence for your first cause. Why cannot we study supernatural for the possibility of first cause? We can study this. We can actually study supernaturalism using the scientific method. The Bible, we're going to cover a few of the supernatural things in the Bible that it claims as proof. But one of the supernatural proofs that the Bible claims is called signs. This is supernatural, and it's written in the Bible. And signs are a word that is used to explain the supernatural. Another way we call signs is we call it prophecy. Now, prophecy, we would admit, it would be a supernatural phenomenon. If someone can tell the future, that is outside of the physical sciences, that's outside of just naturalistic explanations, it must enter into the supernatural for this possibility to occur. And if we can prove a prophecy using the scientific method, then we would have an empirical evidence, actually verifiable evidence that supernatural exists. We would agree. If we can use the scientific method to show that the supernatural exists, then we must embrace it. And prophecy we can look at using the scientific or verifiable evidence. And that's what we want to do for a minute tonight. The Bible even challenges us prophetically. It makes a scientific claim, actually. And so, if the Bible says something prophetic is possible, then it claims that we should be able to study that scientifically. And I believe we can. We can study prophecy using the scientific method. For example, the Bible, in Isaiah chapter 42, verse 9, God says, "Behold, the former things have come to pass, and the new things I declare, before they spring forth, I tell you of them." This is God claiming, I tell the future. I tell you things before they happen. Jesus even said, I tell you in advance so that you know I am He. The Bible makes this supernatural claim, and the supernatural claim is called signs or prophecy, and it even says, I tell you before, to prove the deity, to prove first cause. If God could tell the future, this would be a powerful evidence for the first cause being a infinite God that lives outside of time and space and created us for a purpose to communicate His plan for salvation and demonstrate His love for us, that we could receive and be with Him forever. It's logical thinking. So we can test the Bible scientifically using prophecy. In fact, we have empirical evidence when we test this with the scientific method. I have for you a prophecy on the board here, and we're going to look at this prophecy using the scientific method. The prophecy is given to us in Daniel chapter 9. In Daniel 9, Daniel is known as a prophet of God. He has a visit from an angel. No, it's already sounding supernatural, but he has a visit from an angel. And the angel says to understand this vision that he gives him. And Daniel writes it down. In Daniel 9, at verse 24, we have the prophecy. Now keep in mind that Daniel wrote this probably around 600 BC, maybe 550 to 600 BC. The prophecy says in verse 24 of Daniel 9, it says, 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city. What we know from this word weeks, it's the Hebrew word heptads, and it means sevens. So what I've done in the formula here is I've done the math for you, and you can email me or I can get the actual equations, but I've rounded it off for us so that we can do this quickly. But it tells us that 77s, it means actually 490 years for God's holy people. It talks about at the end of this period of time, it will finish transgression, verse 24, make an end of sins, make reconciliation for iniquity, bring in everlasting righteousness, seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. We know that the most holy is Jesus. And what this prophecy is about, it's going to give us a date and a fulfillment of the date of when the Messiah will be crucified. Verse 25 gives us the particulars of the prophecy. It says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again and the wall, even in troublesome times. So we're given another mathematical formula to put together, and it tells us that 62 sevens and 1 7 need to be added up, and it comes out to 483 years. This is a prophecy, and what the author is saying is that when you see the restoring and the building of Jerusalem, when you see this event take place, you could count 483 years and the Messiah will be cut off. And that's found in verse 26. It says in verse 26, and after the end of the 483 years, Messiah shall be cut off. This is a prediction of the crucifixion. It mentions the Messiah. It mentions when to start counting the 483 years. And then it says if you start counting from the decree to build Jerusalem, you can count 483 years and the Messiah will have been crucified. This is a radical claim.